Oh, the Goblin King, the Goblin thing, you great big thing. It's good to meet you. Oh God, I've messed it up already. Anyway,
But no, let's call it a
We
day.
knew
Let's
what you
end it
let's
meant.
call
there.
it.
It's fine.
That's it. Hit it.
Oh, I hope you're having a fun day. Here's my friend Ruby Sunday. Yeah, it's good to meet you. It's good to diddly deet you or something. I don't know.
I should have
Hello,
started.
everybody.
This has been
Welcome.
in my head for ages. I should have got this out of my brain.
Well, on
It's
that
the clip
note,
I've actually
we are
rewatched
back.
the most from the episode because
Yes.
somebody posted it on Twitter, so I've seen it about 10 times already.
Mm.
Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, and well, we might as well talk about it a little bit. Actually, I mean,
No, why stop singing?
why stop singing? We knew it was coming, and yeah, I think. I mean, we'll get onto the Goblin song properly, but I think it was a bit. It kind of took me back a bit in the moment because it like felt so kind of polished. Like I was expecting it to feel a bit more like improvised and stuff, and then like Ncuti opens his mouth and like auto tune and whatever, and it's like, oh, okay, this is like a really polished thing. Um, but yeah, that is a little teaser of what is to come. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm joined by Miles, by Josh, and by Pete. And today we're doing another roundtable review of the last episode of this year, The Church on Ruby Road, the first Christmas special in 6 years. Lots to unpack, as we have just hinted at. Where to begin with this? I think let's sort of talk about how we were feeling going into this and how we felt the episode kind of compared to those expectations and stuff. Maybe Josh, do you want to kick us off with that?
I was just thinking before we started recording this, now, because it's nearly New Year, is sort of the time that we've become used to getting festive Doctor Who at New Year's. So to get Doctor Who on Christmas Day again, it was very strange, but it felt very right. I think
Mm.
Doctor Who is very much a Christmas Day piece of entertainment. It just feels right at Christmas, you know. And I think that, not to get ahead of myself, I found this episode to be fun, a little sort of light, but that's what you want on Christmas, and it's a bit of fun escapism for the day. And I feel like if it was a New Year's special, I probably wouldn't have liked it as much. But because it was on Christmas and it fit that vibe very well, it was great. And I was very much looking forward to, yeah, seeing a return to Doctor Who on Christmas Day.
I think
Interesting stuff.
you've hit the nail on the head. You've hit the nail on the head. That I'm still hungover from Christmas. I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Josh. Like that's exactly. I think I've not heard anyone sum it up as well as that because you're so right that if this was a New Year's Day episode, we'd be analysing it a bit more as we were watching it. We'd be expecting something with a bit more meat on the bone. But
Mm.
when it's Christmas, and at the time it was on, you've had that massive, you had your big Christmas dinner, you've unwrapped all your presents, you sat there, you don't want anything that's gonna really, force you to think and which sounds like a sort of faint praise, but it's it's right because if you're that's what you're trying to aim for. You're trying to hit the right tone, and I think that this kind of with the plot it was going for, yeah, it got us off to a great start and on the in the right kind of way for Christmas. Yeah, 100%.
Pete, how about you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I wasn't really
Okay, yeah.
expecting too much going into it. I thought, oh, it's Christmas Day episode, like what we're going to get from it. And the first time I watched it, I was kind of like, yeah, that's what I expected. But then I've watched it, I think, 3 times now, and I think I enjoyed it more than the David Tennant specials. Actually, that was really good.
Wow,
Wow. Okay.
Wow,
wow.
high
Crikey. Yeah.
praise.
Interesting stuff.
Can you kick
Um,
him off now, Richard? That's slander. That we're not allowing that.
yeah. So
That's a can
how
of worms you've opened
many
there, Pete.
how many times has everybody watched it? Because I've only actually watched it once so far, but then the commentary afterwards as well, and all the extra
Oh, I haven't watched the
stuff,
commentary yet.
obviously. Right,
No,
there
I
we
knew
go.
there was a
Yeah.
reason why I'd saved
one
it
thing
because
that,
I always want to watch it a second time. So I watched
Mm.
it for the second time this morning over breakfast.
Yeah.
Just because I was like, you know what, I'm in the mood. I want to watch it again. And yeah, so I need to watch the video commentary though. But what about everyone else who's watched it the most? Pete, you say you've watched it 3 times?
I watched it 3 times because I watched it on Christmas Day, and then I watched it in work because that was the only person in my office this week. So I put it in while I was in the office.
Good.
And then I watched it today as well. Just thought I'd watch it again before the review.
Nice one. Yeah.
So 3 times.
I watched it on Christmas Day. I've seen it with the commentary, and I watched the first, I think, 20 minutes or so earliest day up until when they jump onto the ladder and go onto the Goblin ship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I've rewatched bits of it as well. I think there are certain parts getting incredibly ahead of ourselves, literally here, but the very final scene, very final moments, I think are just amazing and beautiful and kind of take you right back to that feeling of watching Doctor Who as a child. I think like when Ruby's there outside, she sees the TARDIS, the music kicks in, you have those little bits of his theme like da 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 and all those bits, and it's just like you know where it's going, and then obviously following all the way through into her going into the TARDIS and that final phenomenal line delivery from Ncuti, "I'm the Doctor." And it just, I felt that was such a confident end and kind of going into next year as well. It's just like, you know, okay, we are here, we're in business, come with us. So I thought that, held up really well. I thought as well, I think, Josh, you were saying, what you like parts of the first half of the episode as well, I think particularly. Things that I went back to as well. Like, I mean, let's talk about some of that and how the characters were introduced and you know, Ruby and the Doctor, because I quite liked, the thing of having them apart and then kind of bumping into each other every now and then. I think, in particular, the club scene, which, you know, is one of those ones kind of going into it, I was thinking, am I going to like this or not? It feels quite different for the show and for the Doctor. But actually, the way it transpired and the way it kind of, the transition from that, like from the pub scene into that as well, like with the band playing and then into the club with the music and stuff and the song choice and everything, just really worked for me, that scene. I mean, how did we feel about the bits and pieces like that with the Doctor and Ruby kind of interacting early on?
I think that you're right, it's such a different way to introduce your new Doctor with, you know, him dancing away in a club and kind of being the center of attention, very unlike any of the Doctors before us. You know, you can't imagine. Well, I mean, I say that Hartnell was in a club back in 1966. So it's come back around full circle, really. He wasn't in his kilt though, dancing away, gin and tonic division though. I think that scene kind of summed up exactly what you're saying there, Richard. Like confidence. It's.
I was going to say as well. Yeah.
So
confidence.
yeah. So kind of like, here he is. This is your new Doctor. Literally, you know, pirouetting around and just a really fresh and interesting way to do it. I don't know, what do you guys think?
As you said, I mean, I've had confident running through my head the whole time. I don't think we've had this confident Doctor debut probably since something like the 11th hour, I think. Both Ncuti and Millie are so settled into their roles. I think when you watch the commentary, Russell says that the scene where the snowman falls down was a late addition because Disney Plus wanted to see more of the new Doctor.
I've heard that,
And so if that's been reshot later on, I'd imagine it's during the production of season 2. And
I think it was just before. I think it was in September, October of this year. So in terms of relatively speaking for this era, that's quite recent, isn't it? Because we've had these massive lead times of like.
Did you all have that bit? You know when we've seen stuff that's been filmed on location and we've had snippets. Like I remember distinctly that bit of Ncuti sort of shouting to the woman in the pram, going, "No, no, no, go, 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 go!" Like stand back. And then we see it happen on screen, and it's like, there we go. There it is.
Yeah, that's where it's from.
And the location, I should say as well. Actually, there, the location is the same as Henrik's from series 1. That corner, that department store, like down the road from there as well is like where they've. I'm like opening a can of worms here because like literally all of that area of Cardiff, like wherever you look, there's something that's been somewhere multiple times. But like where the defense drone Daleks are like attacking as well, like in Revolution of the Daleks, that's just literally down the side of that building as well. And there's all sorts of stuff, in that area. So it felt quite nice, and particularly with that Henrik's link to kind of bring it full circle for Russell as well, I think.
Pete,
what were you going to say?
That.
I was going to say that when I went to the Regenerations convention in Swansea in September, the night before I was there, they filmed that snowman bit, and my hotel was right next to where they filmed it. So if one night earlier, I could have.
No way.
could have seen it. Yeah,
Oh,
It's always the way.
I think
Yeah.
I was
Always
there
the way.
around that time, maybe like the week beforehand. Or there was definitely something, yeah, around that time I was down in Cardiff, and I remember, or maybe it was the week after, because I remember kind of walking around that bit and like where the TARDIS was as well, and kind of thinking afterwards, oh, if only I'd been there like a bit sooner or whatever, a bit later. Um, yeah, okay, yeah, I think with that scene, yeah, it was definitely the right decision to include it.
Mm.
I
Didn't
do
feel
wonder,
like it had
yeah.
been wedged in there, if you know what I mean. Like the fact that you had that scene with Millie in the taxi and it kind of tied in with her bad luck, with her not being able to get the
Mm,
seatbelt on and stuff like that. I, there was nothing in there that made me think, oh, this feels like this is an addition.
Mm.
It all blended so well. And I think that the addition of that bit with the police officer, that was one of my favorite scenes in the whole thing, where,
Yeah.
he says, she'll say yes. Beautiful stuff.
very
Um,
Paul McGann.
very Paul
Very Paul
McGann.
very
And
McGann.
in
Paul
Yeah.
McGann,
fact,
yeah.
I kind of thought it was heading that way until he kind of gave his explanation for, because, 90% of men, blah, 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 all that sort of
Mm.
stuff. But I loved that. I kind of wish that we did have it was a bit more McGann in the sense of
Mm.
we took away the explanation and it was more just a sort of simple kind of, she'll say yes and then boom.
Yeah,
There we
I've
go.
seen other people say that as well, I think. Yeah, maybe.
Mm. But it's still the
yeah.
way that it was done, very cute, very
Mm.
light-hearted, very Christmassy kind of scene. So yeah, beautiful
Yeah.
stuff. Beautiful stuff already.
No,
I
I
really
think
enjoyed it. I
it
think it
worked
was
overall.
one of my
Yeah.
favorite parts of it as well.
Okay.
I
yeah.
think the way that Ncuti plays the Doctor, especially in that scene, there's a bit where he says to the policeman, "Oh, I would just like to go home now. I've been snowmaned. Bye." And he smiles. And he does an almost sort of Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock type thing where he smiles and instantly drops it as he
Yeah.
walks up,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was really good. And he feels like an outsider. He feels very alien. And the way he plays the Doctor is so different but so great. There's also a sort of I don't know if you guys have seen The Man Who Fell to Earth.
David Bowie is
David
that?
Bowie
Yeah.
plays the alien, but there's quite a famous shot from that where he's sort of looking out, and that was also used on the cover of his album Low, and I get that sort of vibe. And there's also shots very similar to that of Ncuti sort of looking out in that moment there, in that scene, and also towards the end on Ruby Road where he's just looking out, where he just seems like an outsider. He feels like an alien, and the way he plays the Doctor, I think, is so different. Because again, you wouldn't, not to get ahead of ourselves, but you wouldn't picture any other Doctor singing in front of the Goblin King. But it completely works, and it completely is the character, and it just shows, I guess, not only how talented Ncuti is as a performer, but also how great and adaptable Doctor Who as a show is, that it can still do so many new things even after 60 years.
I think you've again nailed it because like
Thanks.
a lot of the criticism you're hitting it on the head tonight, Josh.
There's no point in being here, is there?
Yeah, the a lot of sort of the little people have been loving Ncuti, but the only thing that I've heard being said is that he feels almost a bit too cool, a bit like the Doctor should be a bit more awkward, a bit more da. But I think that you're right in that moment when he sort of drops that smile and turns around and walks away. It is almost like all of that is a kind of a front. And there's another moment in the flat when they're all looking at the pictures of the kids on the fridge, and I was going to say Millie, then Ruby says, "Have you got any family?" And he just goes, "I've got no one," and then slaps back to it, and he's back working out the mystery and all that sort of stuff. And it's almost like moving on. So I wonder if we're going to get a bit more of that as this sort of season rolls on, of him dropping his guard a bit, becoming a bit more emotional, like he is when Ruby suddenly disappeared, and it's kind of like, okay, all the coolness has just suddenly disappeared. The Doctor is like serious mode now. So yeah, no, I mean, how good was Ncuti? I think we're already basically singing his praises. I think
literally.
Well, yeah, literally. Why stop singing?
Why stop singing?
He, I think, is one of maybe like the Doctor that I've clicked with the soonest in their run. I definitely think Capaldi took an episode or two. Whittaker, sort of was an odd one. I think she did take a good while for me to really properly click with. But Ncuti, like, instantly, I don't know what it is, yet he's so different and yet so doctory, and I can't quite pinpoint what that is, but he's magnetic. I think that's the thing I get. And if the Doctor is magnetic and the one that you want to see, they've got it.
Mm.
In my opinion.
I suppose how would we? I mean, we've talked about it a bit there, but how would we define like what his Doctor is and how he's different? Because I think certainly the emotional side of it comes into it a lot. Like, he's a lot more like, kind of following on, I suppose, from what we saw in the 60s with the 14th Doctor. He's more emotionally aware and more emotional, full stop, and yeah, like he's not afraid to shed a tear in front of Carla or whatever, or he's not afraid to be there in the club doing his own thing. He's kind of sort of more emotional and more confident, and sort of doesn't really care what other people think so much, perhaps, and that kind of, whereas with other Doctors perhaps you sort of had still that sort of, I don't know, effervescence or whatever, but it's kind of been a bit more dorkish or a bit more awkward, a bit more clumsy. Here it is, that thing, isn't it, of him being so much more cool and just, not caring at all, like just being himself and all that sort of stuff. And definitely, like we've been saying as well, like having him fully formed, I think, following on from the giggle and presumably having had some kind of time gap between then and then this episode as well. That allows him to just be there from the word go. No usual shenanigans with post generation or whatever, or being in a bed for half the episode, asleep. He's just there straight away. Obviously, it takes a while for him to actually properly come in, but he's there, and I think as we sort of all said, he's just phenomenal. What other moments maybe for Ncuti? I mean, do we go to the obvious one? I don't know. Is it too early?
One thing that I did want to mention that I
Go
thought
on.
was quite Matt Smith-like was his sort of fascination and joy for everything around him in this story. The whole Matt Smith thing of, oh, I love new things. The way he reacts, like, I'm learning a new language of how rope works. And when during the Goblin King song, not before when they actually sing themselves, but I was got to Amelia as well. Ruby is sort of like, oh my God, they're about to eat the baby, and the Doctor's saying, oh my God, it's incredible. He's fascinated by everything, and he's got this joy for the universe again, which is really, really fun. And how he's very excitable.
And the gloves that he's invented as well, and all the other inventions he's got.
Yeah.
Now available in TK Maxx.
I was gonna say, it just looks like a normal glove, doesn't it? Which is incredible. So any glove could be. It's weird because it's never actually given a name. He calls it like smart gloves or intelligent
gloves, I think.
Mavity gloves.
Mavity gloves.
Mavity gloves. Didn't he call them the psychic gloves?
Psychic, psychic.
Yeah,
it was a
on
really
Zero.
weird one beforehand, where he'd sort of said, oh, I've got psychic gloves. And clearly he was just misremembering or whatever. Because at the time, people were kind of, oh, what are these? And I actually remember going through the promo pics for this story beforehand and seeing a picture of them clinging onto the ladder, both wearing black gloves. And I thought to myself in the back of my mind, oh, maybe that's what he was talking about. Sort of half believing it to be true and half not, and then obviously that's what happened. But they were nice, weren't they? I think I've seen people say like maybe they should have been a bit more gadgety or whatever, but it is that thing of any kid in the playground can now have intelligent gloves, isn't it? It's
the whole Sonic Shades kind of situation, really, isn't it? That it's easy to replicate.
And
although in this case, it's not a pair of Ray-Bans.
Any kid has got a sonic screwdriver, they got a TV remote.
Yeah,
it's right there. It's there for the taking, isn't it? Really? Yeah.
Do we have any thoughts about the Sonic, how it was implemented in this? Having been introduced beforehand, didn't see those, did we? No. I guess it was like the torch functionality, and I think that one of the best views you get of it is in that the more recent scene, isn't it, with the policeman? I think, where it's like sonic screwdriver and
he holds it up. Yeah.
He holds it up. Yeah,
that might have been another request from Disney, being like, show your promo, placement, product placement.
Yeah. And we're still yet to see the toy of that materialize, but hopefully soon. Yeah, and much more of that, I suppose, to come next year, really.
Yeah.
So okay, let's leave the song for a bit longer. Perhaps should we talk about Millie slash Ruby?
Oh,
How she
I
was.
love Ruby.
Yeah.
Mm.
I love Ruby so much. I think that's the only tweet I made in the episode, being like, I already adore her. Like it was 10 minutes in, and I was like, Millie is fantastic. She's so natural. You can really see like how her soap kind of acting plays into her performance, because she's so down to earth, so relatable. You know that person. You know people like that. The way she reacts to stuff, the way that she kind of adds slight intonations to her lines. I love the bit when Davina McCall was in this. This is insane. When I'm sure
Merry
we'll come
Christmas,
back to it at some
Davina
point.
McCall. Yeah.
Merry Christmas, Davina
Yeah.
McCall. And there's Americans going, "Who the hell's that?" So the moment when Davina calls and says, you know, "I'm sorry, there's no trace of your birth mum," and all that sort of stuff. The way that Millie chooses to sort of speak those lines and kind of it, she makes it sound so unscripted, because she's exactly how you'd be reacting to a call like that. You'd be sort of tripping over words. You'd be kind of just words would be pouring out of your head, and she somehow manages to communicate that. It's really excellent perform. I can't wait to see what else she does through the series. I can't wait to see what Russell throws at her in the scripts, and you know what new things and where this character is going to be taken. And I already know that something traumatic is going to happen to her, and I'm already not ready for that, because I love Ruby. I think she's fantastic, and I love the family that she's come with. I just think there's a real joyous energy about her. So yeah, but what do the rest of us think? Who hates her?
I don't hate her,
Oh,
but
Pete.
I think Millie's acting was a little bit soapy, a little bit over the top in certain parts. But I think she will grow on me. I think it's just getting used to her style of acting that's quite different from some of the other actors. Quite similar to Jenna Coleman, I thought, which was interesting because obviously they both came from soaps. And at times I found Jenna Coleman was a little bit over the top and a little bit unnatural.
That's interesting. Maybe I've grown up with that type of acting, because I see that as naturalistic. I don't know what it is. I just thought the way that she spoke just sounded very, very real. But it's interesting how different perspectives, you know. Yeah, look at us, guys. We're still getting along. I'm still friends with Pete.
How do you think she compares to someone like Yaz then, which is the last proper female companion we had?
I wasn't a fan of Mandip Gill's performance style. I just didn't think that never felt real to me. I could never get on board with Yaz as a character. But that's just me personally. There'll be plenty of people who would have gone, no, that's a real character. I mean, what did you think of Yaz, Pete? Did you love her?
It's difficult because I think as a character I prefer Ruby, but I think acting styles I had more belief that Yaz was a proper real person.
That's so interesting.
At the moment, but it could change.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So
what about the rest of you?
You know what? I think another key word to go alongside confident would be realism, and how realistic Millie Gibson.
I'll just leave now.
Genuinely, I thought that she was really, really good. I thought another thing that I didn't even realize until until I was watching Pitch Perfect 2 on Boxing Day, because that was on TV.
Excellent film, best of the trilogy.
Because everyone in that film is meant to be like uni age, like uni freshers, like 18, 19.
Okay. Yeah.
But they're played by like 26 or something year olds. And something I didn't even clock until I watched that film, because I thought they don't look their age. I don't believe in their characters. Is that Millie Gibson is 19 years old. She is the age of her character. And that really adds another layer of realism that I didn't even consciously realize until I thought about it. Like thinking back to Yaz is meant to be 19 in series 11, but I don't really believe that. I don't believe that.
No way. Is that true?
Yeah, she's
not meant to be 19 years old.
They're both meant to be 19.
Yeah.
But I don't believe in that. But I absolutely believe in Ruby Sunday being this 19-year-old. And I think it's a brilliant piece of casting, because not only is she a fantastic performer and actor, but she's she looks believable for that character, and the way that she's been written as well, I absolutely believe in her. I can see where she fits in the world. I can see her life, and I'm ready to go on adventures with her and the Doctor. Yeah, so thumbs up from me.
So I have a revelation for everybody. Okay, you ready?
Mhm.
Drop into your seats for this one.
I'm gripped.
I think Russell has made me like the Timeless Child.
You know what?
Ooh.
I'm on your team with that one, Pete.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't think
I
it'll ever
agree
be
as
my,
well, I think.
I don't think it'll ever be my favorite thing in Doctor Who, and I still think the way that Chibnall went about it wasn't quite to my liking. I think he went into it a little bit too much, but then also not enough. And then some of the stuff he showed I didn't like, and other bits and bobs. But I think the way Russell's handled it's been really nice actually, because we've had the little bits of it where we've had like the mention of being adopted, which is quite an interesting way of going down that route. And I know we had a mention in the specials about it as well. I think the way that Russell's handled it's been a lot more careful in some respects. But I don't know if you guys would agree with that.
I think perhaps it's brought it down to earth in the way that Russell does with
Yeah.
a lot of things. I think that Chibnall maybe liked to focus more on the grand scale aspects of it. I mean, this is the man who would put Berlin 1972 on the screen. Like, you know, Chibnall sees the huge universal scale of things. It's the flux, it's all that sort of stuff. And I think Russell sort of went, well, we'll take that and we'll try and sort of hone in on what does that actually mean? Like, you know, what is that? And to sort of go with the adoption angle, I think is great. And also still goes along with what Chris Chibnall did that storyline for. You know, he wanted to put a bit of his own life into there. So I think that it's a great way of both honoring the original writer's intentions, yet also pushing it into a new area for the character as well, and an area which I think that's going to be explored a bit more. And then that's the kind of hint that I get, because Ruby's certainly not done with her side of things, and the Doctor is kind of, I imagine it's going to come a bit more to the fore, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Go on, Josh. No, go on. Take it away.
I was gonna say, I think it's what made Russell's version of Doctor Who back in 2005 so successful is his ability to, as you say, Miles, bring down to earth these very grand scale sci-fi ideas. So you get something like the Flux and the Timeless Child, and he brings it down to earth and makes it emotionally resonant, because it would be, of course it would be. And I think that there's no reason why you can't add to the character of the Doctor in that way, because you know it's an ongoing story, it's an expanded universe. It just makes me laugh though that you can have something like this, the Timeless Child, and it's canon, but the Doctor being half human.
Who knows? At this point, who knows?
Russell's not putting that into the new series, is he?
Oh my god!
Just wait, it'll turn out that Susan Twist is his human mother.
In fact, thinking of that now, maybe can you explain that away as like, I don't know, he thought his mother was half human or whatever it was, but like biologically, because the time was different.
I still think that I go
really
through
is.
canon of either McGann was just pretending and on New Year's Eve and being like, you know, oh, here's a weird, wacky distraction, or he genuinely just was absolutely insane in that moment and was just like, I'm half human.
Yeah,
it's true. Honestly, it's true.
Do you guys find the half human thing to be more controversial than the Timeless Child?
No,
I've never found it to be that, in all honesty, because I think that I've just gone, well, if I don't want to think about it, I don't have to think about it, and it's never bothered me. And I think that I think because
it existed before we were fans as well. It's always
precisely. But then, and so then I suppose it's sort of fine for us to be like, well, people were able to push that aside, so we can do the same thing for Timeless Children. It seemed like that was what Timeless Children was going to be a case of. If Russell didn't pick up on it, it would have just been another thing like the half human thing that we're just like, well, that happened. Did it break the canon? No, the show's still running.
That's what I was expecting it to be.
But it's so interesting how he's kind of. It feels like he's gone. That's a kind of an interesting area to be mined. Let's see where it goes. And I think that's almost like his time war for this new iteration of the program.
Yes.
You need
Yeah.
something that feels like something's gone on in the past, but not quite. Like, we won't go into it in depth in such a way of like, you need to have seen all of these episodes to understand it. It's just like a mystery off screen that you can learn a bit more about. Just like with Gallifrey, it's like the Doctor's home planet's died. You don't need to know what went on with Gallifrey. You don't need to have seen the Invasion of Time. I mean, you do if you want to have a good life, but you'd have no need to know about all these things. It's just a new sort of part of the Doctor's backstory, and I think that it's so interesting how he's gone, I'll use that, and kind of it gives a bit more credibility to it. Because you're right, Pete. I actually quite like it, and I'm interested to see where he takes it in the future.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I think it's like we were saying a couple of weeks ago with Wild Blue Yonder, which I've changed my mind, by the way. Wild Blue Yonder is my favorite of the 3 specials, hands down. I've changed my mind.
It's a Christmas miracle.
I was caught up in the hype, I think, of the giggle. But yeah, it's a nice way of just linking this new era of the show to the older one, which I really, really like. So
100%.
Yeah, agree with that. I mean, I think I'm probably the person out of the 4 of us that had the least of a problem with it, or the execution of it to begin with. So I guess
this man wrote a dissertation on it, for God's sakes.
Yeah, like for me, it's nice, as other people said, to see it not being ignored and being carried through. Somewhat surprising as well, definitely, like with the stuff with the Flux as well, and the 60th, and then here as well. Yeah, I'm all for it. Was all for it. Then mostly like some of the execution at the end, I will admit, was a bit fudged with the end of Flux and the Vanquish and stuff. But yeah, that's the one bit where I would agree. I think everything up to there, like with Tecton and stuff, I was quite behind that. But yeah, I certainly agree. You know, seeing it brought in now, and I guess the real difference with it here is having another character, a human character who is also adopted. That's where things really start to get interesting, because as we've sort of alluded to, Chris was working, I suppose, in difficult parameters there, where you want to reveal some stuff but not too much about the Doctor. There are some things you can never say, whereas with Ruby, we can go the whole hog with that. We can find out who her parents are if they choose to do that, which I think they probably will. And yeah, it gives you more freedom, more flexibility with that. Interesting as well that I think, again, someone said it was inspired by Christian Law's own upbringing and experience, but we only found that out quite late in the day. I think like after Legend of the Sea Devils or even the Daleks, it was quite late on in his era. Whereas interestingly with this, I remember Russell talking, I think on the podcast or something, about how he'd kind of been inspired by long lost family shows, inspired by Crystal D, who apparently was adopted as well, and his friendship with her and all that stuff. It's an interesting difference there as well, that he's being very upfront about the influences there as well, which is different to how it was done in the past. And so I suppose all of that kind of bodes well for the future, in terms of, we know what we're doing with this, and let's see where it takes us. Lots of mysteries surrounding that as well, which I suppose we shall come back to. With all of that. So perhaps I think there was something else I was going to say there, but if I remember it, I'll come back to it. But in the meantime,
something I wanted to say quickly as well.
Yeah,
you mentioned it. Is, and I didn't even realize until you said this, so thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
Is that now that we have all this behind the scenes material, like Doctor Who Unleashed, it is good because you can see what Russell was going for, especially the commentaries as well. You can see, so this is what you were trying to do, this is what your intentions were. Whereas I feel like a lot of the hate that Chibnall got is because he was a very distant showrunner. We didn't know the whole thing about this is an allegory for my own life until that interview. And so the fact that there's a lot of visibility from Russell as a creator, you can see what his intentions are and what he's trying to do. I think that lends itself well because you can understand the stories a lot better and what the intentions 100%. Are. So yeah, I think it's a good thing that we got more content like this.
Sure. I think I will say about that as well. It's kind of funny thing, like you say, it's great to have those insights through, but sometimes it is like, I find it quite funny. I'm just taking the mick here, but like Russell's sort of there saying, no, this character had to be there, and this scene had to, and that line had to be said, and it was just like, And he's like, kind of, it's just that way, isn't it? That he has about like kind of bigging everything up and like saying, "Oh, this had to be this and this had to be that, and it couldn't have been any other way." And I'm like, thinking,
but I think that's
okay.
what Russell is. I think there's
It is,
there's a
isn't it?
real
It's
confidence,
him.
isn't there? It's like, I mean, I 100%. I think I don't agree with some of the things that Russell says that we needed that, and I think this should be the
Sure,
approach.
yeah.
But I admire that confidence to be like, this had to be done. This had to be. Oh, this
Yes.
has to be in there. It has to be in there.
Yeah.
And so I know exactly what you mean. But I think
Yeah.
that it's. I think the reason
It's
why
convincing for the most part, isn't it? I think, yeah.
Exactly, and I think that this man could sell me sell me anything. He could sit there and pitch me something, and I'd be like, "Yes, Russell, yes, absolutely, absolutely, let's do it, let's do it."
Yeah, and either way, it just like he does in his own stories, with his characters, as a person having more behind the scenes insights like this brings him down to earth as a person. A lot of people, I think, sort of villainize Chris Chibnall as some sort of evil man who wants to ruin Doctor Who, which of course he didn't. He was just doing his job as showrunner, but because you never really saw much of him, people got that weird idea. So yeah, it's good that we're able to understand him as a person a bit more, which is good.
Yeah.
Well, talking of villains, perhaps, and also segueing there a bit with Russell and things he's said on the extra stuff as well. I want to talk about the goblins, and particularly one thing I want to kind of throw out there as well. So I think on one of the things, I think it was the commentary maybe, Russell was talking about how, a bit like with that other scene inserted in the first half of the episode, in the second half, originally there was going to be another sequence involving, I think, the Goblin King and the goblins kind of coming down to
invading
Earth,
the flat,
invading the flats. That fantastic visual of the Goblin King like forcing his way along the corridor and stuff, which I think that would have been brilliant, and personally as well, I think that would have kind of it was kind of what I felt was maybe a bit lacking with the goblins, of kind of taking it up a level and giving us another big set piece, or having a bit more from them. So I kind of want to throw out there, what do we think of the goblins, how they were used? I will caveat that by saying that obviously in a story like this, you want the Doctor and Ruby, the companion, the Doctor, to be front and center. So obviously it's a good thing that was the case. But I felt maybe, and we can talk about the song as well in a bit, but I felt maybe the goblins overall didn't leave that much of an impression. It was a bit of a shame to not see a bit more of them, perhaps. But what do we think?
Maybe I think you say, I think that you need a villain who is just easily like, that's what they are. Let's focus on the Doctor and our new companion. A bit like for Rose, we had the Autons. They're plastic dummies. Deal with it. That's what they are. Or for Capaldi's, it was they're robots who nick bits of people. And I guess we're used to it at this point of having an introductory story, not having the most fleshed out villains. So I think goblins is a great way of being like, they're just imps who cause mischief and for some reason spend 20 minutes hovering a ship, not coming down and doing anything, just waiting there for a bit. All right, I agree that bit's a bit iffy, but I liked the way that they kind of, the sort of gremlin like sort of opening of having them pulling out plugs and moving coffee cups and things like that. I thought that was quite cute. So in short, I suppose I'm not surprised that we didn't get much development. But equally, that doesn't mean that there weren't issues, with that fact. If that makes any sense.
Sure.
I'm sort of critiquing, but I can understand why it was the way it was. Yeah. What do you think?
I agree. I'd say that, like you say, Miles, we tend to get quite not basic, but like villains who you don't really see much or quite like easily defeated in their first episode, because it's focusing on our regulars that were introduced for the first time. Like the Atraxine, the 11th Hour, or Tim Shaw. Sorry?
Tim Shaw, yeah.
Teeth Man.
Yeah. Teeth Man. And the thing is with goblins as well is that they're an established sort of trope in fiction anyway, so people already know who they are. So you don't really need to go into that backstory. They're not an original villain. I thought, they were fun, but they didn't really leave much in terms of impact, as you say. And I'm a little bit confused as to getting to the ending now and how they were defeated, which I think was a bit week. I don't know why the Goblin ship just sort of disappeared.
I think it was to do with the paradox, like the kind of like the idea of that if the
maybe.
Goblin King was killed, then he couldn't be in the future to know about Ruby and then come back. But the fact that they don't speak and they don't have any dialogue to communicate that means that we aren't as clear on that. So, and also another thing as well, as much as I loved them playing a bit of mischief and moving gin glasses and things, why were they doing that? Were they doing that for the sake of forcing coincidence to happen? But equally, how was causing accidents forcing coincidence to happen? If that makes any sense, like what was the necessity? Maybe there's a reason for it. Maybe Russell goes into it in the commentary on the podcast I haven't seen, but
I think the goblins wanted to eat Lulubelle and knew that she was going to arrive at that house with Ruby, and the way that the doctor described it, I think it was like, so if you have bad luck, that makes you stand out, sort of like a beacon. So they were forcing bad luck so that they could sort of locate her and hone in on her. Yeah, that's what I got from it, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
is it something to do with the baby is tastier if there's more coincidences?
Something like that.
But I just didn't understand how the bad luck caused that coincidence, because the coincidence was just that they were both born on Christmas Eve, and it's a Sunday now. That's cool. Isn't it amazing how that's a coincidence thing became a meme before we even realized how significant that was to the plot? I just love that. Everyone was sending that's a coincidence around to each other, and we didn't even realize that, by doing that we were summoning the goblins.
Sure.
Yeah.
How did the doctor know that Davina McCall needed to be saved by a Christmas tree, by the way?
That's true. Ruby didn't say.
Because it was never brought up in front of him.
Was he there when? Was he there when she was on? When it happened on the phone? When Ruby was on the phone?
No.
And even when she says it to
him, just went dead. So she was like,
"No,
he doesn't even know."
And even when Ruby mentions it to Carla, is that the name of the mum, Carla? Yeah,
Carla. Yeah.
When she mentions it, she just says the people from the TV show phoned. She didn't say Davina McCall. Anything like that.
Because we can't call it Long Lost Family. We have to
exactly. That's one thing actually that I thought that's very un-Russell of you there. Because Russell in the Writer's Tale mentions that people don't speak like that. If you say that, should we go and see that new movie? You say, should we go and see Captain America or whatever it is? You don't say, that TV show. So I was like, surely you just make something up in that instance, because it just stuck out to me because of how Russell had really said, don't do that, and there he was doing it. But
I found it funny as well with Davina with that, like how I don't think that they ever really said like, Davina's on the phone. They always said like Davina McCall, like TV's Davina McCall is on the phone right now.
Yeah.
Like, Merry Christmas, TV's Davina McCall. Just one name,
double-barreled.
But I think that's just a thing with to be fair, with TV or fiction anyway. The way that she introduces herself and says, "Hi, I'm Ruby Sunday." I don't know about you guys, but I don't normally add my surname when I meet people for the first time.
I'm always introducing myself like Bond. I'm always,
But yeah, I think it's just a TV thing. But it as you say, Miles, it is quite strange because they did work with the people from that program with Davina McCall, and so it's interesting that they couldn't reference the name. You look at series 1 and
and they had the Weakest Link, they had Big Brother and all that sort of stuff.
So it's very strange how things have changed over time.
That is,
maybe it's the Disney Plus stuff. Maybe that's it, isn't it? Maybe there's either the rules are stricter these days, or it's too costly, or whatever. I don't know, something like that.
Or maybe it dates it. Maybe it dates it to. Maybe they learned from the fact that changing room. What was it? What was the program with Trinity and Susanna? I can't even remember.
The clothes room, whatever it was.
But maybe they learned that all of that kind of lodged that in 2005. Whereas if we just are a bit more vague, maybe that future proofs it. Who knows?
That is true. Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, I did think Davina McCall was actually very good as well. I thought that she was quite natural. There was obviously moments when it was very clear that this woman is not an actor, but I thought that overall that I think the way they wrote stuff, especially the way that they wrote that scene on the set of Long Lost Families, and they're having the chat and then they have to cut, and she sort of has a little brief chat and says, okay, we're going to pick it up. It's like that felt very real. Like I've been on sets where that happens, you know, and the person who's sat in the seat is quite clued up on how things work. So, thumbs up from me in terms of how that was done.
Have you guys seen the video of David Tennant kissing Davina McCall?
I have. Yeah.
Yes. I remember that.
Was that
for
for
Point Relief?
Day?
I think
Oh,
so.
Point Relief.
Point Relief.
Yeah.
About 2009 or something, maybe. Yeah.
No, it was just on a street somewhere. Someone just kissed it.
It's just for fun.
It came up on
my
I don't know,
God.
TikTok or YouTube or something the other day, and I was like, "What is this? Where's this from?"
Oh, you've not seen it before? Yeah.
No,
Honestly, I
don't
can't
think
actually
so.
believe that happened in like what 2007 or something like that. That is kind of. I mean, could that would not happen on telly nowadays? What an insane thing to happen.
No.
There we go. But she didn't kiss Ncuti.
Didn't kiss Shooty.
She's-
I mean, on the
she had a
subject
lot of
of
life saved, but
Davina,
that's
I
it.
mean, obviously she's had that. She was in series 1 as well, voice only albeit. So perhaps she's destined to return to the show again. Perhaps, like a coincidence, she's weaved throughout Doctor Who's history, and
She's
by-
Ruby's mum.
by the time that she leaves this earth, she'll have been like a massive player, and she'll have been Mrs. Flood, she'll have been Susan Twist, whatever. She'll have been there all the way through with these little sprinkled appearances. I do find the thought of her. I suppose actually she's probably too famous to even do this, but like the thought of her doing conventions or something one day, like if it came to it, if it came to it, like a Phantom thing in 50 years, or maybe not 50 years, but 30 years time or something, that's just going to be bonkers.
Do we think that? I mean, did we
Go to
think
Riverside
that
in 40 years and meet her.
Yeah,
Yeah, and she won't have
Literally.
the either. Do we think that she should have been properly killed? I mean, because in that moment, I honestly thought, like, wow, they've killed her off. What a ballsy thing to do. But then again, it is Christmas.
I think overall it's Christmas. But again, like you, I think in the moment I thought, oh my God, they've gone and done it. But they've done it in a way that is
It's like a comedy kind of death, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it's
Yeah, I
not
was gonna say, I
brutal.
found it
You
quite
don't see any
funny
blood or
rather than
anything. So
shocking.
it's,
Yeah, we all laughed.
It's more
We
of a
all
funny
laughed
thing,
at
isn't it?
home. We
Yeah.
were like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
also you knew as soon as you saw that big Christmas tree that it was going to fall.
Oh yeah, of course.
Well, I
yeah.
heard something about the only rumor that I heard. We're back to the
Right.
rumors now, and I didn't know
The
much
leaks, of
about
course.
again.
Yeah.
We
This,
talk
yeah.
about leaks again. Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. But no more now, hopefully.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I did hear
Wow.
something to do with a Christmas tree having significance with Davina.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was sort of like, is something going to happen here? Maybe, and then it did.
I think
I
the
did,
leak
but-
said, didn't the leak say she was going to be killed by a Christmas tree? So I was thinking, oh, was it going to be like Jackie Tyler again, Christmas Invasion?
That's
But then
exactly
obviously
what I thought it was gonna be that
when we
kind
got
of
to that,
thriller.
yeah, but when we got to that scene, I was like, oh, okay, it's going to fall on her. But yeah, literally beforehand, I was kind of thinking it's going to be like a spinning thing. But
Just
yeah.
on the conversation of Series 1 and like the old Russell era, I think
Yeah.
this episode had missed one big trick, which was when Ncuti goes to see Cherry for the first time. Why did not get anything could happen? No.
No, she would have been like, "Give me a cup of tea."
Yeah.
Yeah, get me a cup of tea first, and then we'll have
we'll
that
see.
conversation.
I love that
my
interaction.
God.
Can I just say, I love Cherry Sunday already. Like
Yes.
she's just, she can go on the TARDIS as well, please. I love her.
Oh,
She's fantastic.
yeah.
She's
I
great.
think both of those
They
two
say
as
in the
well are
commentary-
continuing, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, they said
that
in
what
the
you're gonna say?
commentary
Yeah.
that she's going to be in at least season 2 because she was in the
Yeah.
read-through. Russell said an anecdote about how
Yeah.
she came to the read-through for, I think, episode 4 of season 2.
Yeah, I think it
She didn't
was.
realise that she had lines until they opened the scripts up. And she was like, I thought I was just here for the vibes.
Yeah.
Love it.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? Yeah,
I love
so Goblin, back to Goblins, and maybe sort of segueing into the song now. I mean, yeah, I think overall, I would have liked a bit more from them. I felt maybe another set piece or something. I think what Russell described would have kind of ticked that box for me almost. I think they kind of missed a little bit of a trick with them. This is sort of one of I think the first time maybe across the 4 episodes we've had so far with the Disney budget and stuff where I've kind of thought, I've not necessarily seen
Seen it on the screen.
seen it so much. I mean, I say that, I guess, like having a snow-covered church is expensive, or having the goblin ship in the sky. The whole thing of how they realised them predominantly through CG as well was obviously going to be a costly thing, and something that they said they couldn't have done like 10 years ago or whatever. But again, I wonder whether, more because they did have some practical costumed goblins. I think more of that maybe might have been nice, just to have them in the flat running around, or have them on the street or something. I don't know.
I
But
don't
yeah,
think the Goblin King looked great though. I think the Goblin King looked a bit ropey.
it was a
The
bit of a
tongue.
thing, wasn't it, of him? Yeah, because I guess you have the movements, don't you, there? But ultimately, he's like just a static thing sat in the
Yeah.
corner of a set. And I think with that set as well, it was a bit of a weird one because it didn't, like, particularly with Ruby and the Doctor there, and I guess it kind of figures because the goblins are only like however tall. They're not very tall, are they? They're only so high. But like, it felt quite small as well. It didn't feel to me necessarily like a big space.
Then that's they are small, aren't they?
But they are
And
small.
I did quite like how
that. So
they
yeah.
they kind of, for that first scene when they'd been tied up and they were trying to escape and they were literally crouching everywhere, and it's not like they're just going through ventilation shafts. I mean, it's like the whole ship is like this is just what the ship is.
Now you say it, yeah, it all kind of
Like the mini door that they try and look at and Ncuti sort of scuttles through. I loved that. It was so nice to kind of have a different scale to things. You know, small scale.
Maybe literally, it made sense to have something small scale, both literally and metaphorically. But I think another thing to finally get into what we've been really wanting to talk about, of course, I'm sure. I think another element of the budget and the cost and stuff probably went towards our favourite moments, the Goblin song. Obviously, the big sort of thing, the big set piece with the Goblins, with them all singing and dancing and stuff. Now, this had been released beforehand, so we'd all had time to get used to it. The bit we hadn't seen was the bit with Ncuti and Millie, which we touched on at the very start of this recording, however long ago that was. Some brief thoughts about the Goblin song, how that worked in context and with that extra bit as well.
I think that I actually liked it. I thought that it was fun. It had a good Christmassy kind of vibe to it. Like, why not? Why not?
Good fun.
Good fun. Exactly. I think the reasoning in the show could have been outlined a bit more. Like,
yes,
perhaps that as well as coincidence, perhaps the goblins thrive on fun and kind of maybe a reason for like why the Doctor kind of goes, why stop singing? And that's almost like, well, it's not enough of a reason to keep on singing. Why does it please them? Maybe that could have had some involvement in the resolution. I don't know. But yeah, I did like it. I thought it was fun. And I did say before we started recording that whenever I've spoken to people about this, it was like family members, and they'd be like, so what did you think of Doctor? What did you think of the bit when they started singing? I think that it was kind of the thing that everyone kind of clung on to. And I think people...
definitely, yeah.
I mean, maybe fans have different reactions. I don't know, but overall, I get the vibe that people were sort of a bit like, you know what, it was quite funny, and why not? I mean, my brother didn't think so. He heard it was an audible groan from the side of the room when he's like, oh
yes,
God.
that's the thing with siblings, singing. Isn't it? Yeah, they don't necessarily get it. I can relate to that. Yeah,
but yeah. I think more of a thumbs up for me than a thumbs down.
Enough,
what about the rest of you?
When I watched it in the office, I had my headphones on, so it was on my phone. I was watching it.
Thank God.
Got to the part where the song was on, and then somebody from another office, like a different building of the same like area that I work in, came to visit me to ask me a question about something really serious, and I was like, let me just pause this song. And I think she saw it, and she was like, what on earth are you watching? And I was just like, doesn't matter. Like, I'll send you that email. I'll send that over pronto. Like, it's all good.
I thought you were going to go, what are you watching? Look at this. Have an earphone.
Oh, dear.
Get ready for your day to be brightened.
It's a shame, actually, because my boss does actually watch Doctor Who with his son, and I always like hearing what he thinks of it and what his son thinks of it. But he's not watched it yet, so hopefully next week I'll have an answer as to what he thought of it.
Fingers crossed.
To be continued. Yeah.
It's a real earworm as well.
His son can't work out why there's different doctors. His son's too young to understand regeneration, so he's like, how come there's different people?
I bet my generation really confused him then.
I mean, gosh.
Yeah.
Bless him.
Oh, boy.
Strap yourself in.
Something that came alongside it being broadcast on Christmas Day is that this is the first time that I've seen an episode of Doctor Who live with my family all at once. And so normally when we watch Doctor Who in the house, it's sort of like, don't talk. You can't talk when Doctor Who is on. We'll talk about it afterwards, but you're silent watching Doctor Who. And then when the song started, the Goblin song, when it was just the Goblins, we expected it because we'd seen it obviously before. But when Ncuti started singing, we just sort of looked at each other and was like, "Oh, this is a bit different." But again, it totally suited like it being a festive special. You know, it felt like a cheesy sort of family fun film, kind of like, but it was sadistic. It was a sadistic song. It was like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory almost, you know, where the Oompa are singing as they're doing these horrible things to these children. You know, it felt right at home.
It's funny you mention that actually, because I'd only shortly before this went out seen the new Wonka film as well, and there's quite a lot of like parallels and things there, like singing obviously, and little people like the goblins and the Oompa Loompas, being on like rooftops and stuff, and
Roderick's in it as well.
There are more. Roderick's in it, Patterson Joseph. Yeah,
does he still want his money?
He wants something, and he wants chocolate, doesn't he? Yeah,
I want my chocolate.
Yeah, of course, my chocolate. Yeah, I'm sure there are other things that have now stuck in my mind as well. But I was thinking to myself, oh, it's interesting that we've got both these things happening within the same month, within the same Christmas. Yeah, so I guess it kind of fits in with that. I mean, personally, yeah, I think in terms of how it was implemented, it wasn't too jarring for me, to be honest. The shooty bit, because we hadn't heard it already, and because, as I've said already, I think it sounded a little bit more polished than I was expecting. It took a bit more time to get used to, but I certainly think because we'd already seen it and heard it, actually, by the time it came along, we were all expecting it. We all knew it was coming. It was like, okay, yeah, fair enough. Like, we've had time for this to become an earworm and for it to get used to the idea. So, yeah, I think overall it worked broadly speaking.
And also, Millie's bit has just not left my brain, and I don't know why. It won't get out of my head. That little bit that Ruby sings, for some reason, just I've been like making toast and like, just leave my brain, please.
Yeah.
But there we go. Maybe that's a sign of a good song.
In the past, have you greeted anybody, Miles, in the past couple of days and said, "Good to say how diddly dee to you"?
And then they punched me. Yeah.
So let's begin to wrap this up now by turning our attention, I think, to the future, unless anyone else has anything burning to say about the episode. So, elements of this, of Church on Ruby Road, that we either know or we think are going to become something bigger in the future and are going to kind of continue into next year's season. And we can touch on the trailer a bit as well with this. Let's maybe go in with... Actually, let's first go in with Mavity, I think, and then we could build up to Mrs. Flood, perhaps. So, obviously, we've had that scene we mentioned with the gloves, where the Doctor is describing how they work, and he says, oh, they... all the weight and something and Mavity are transferred into the gloves. And I think in that moment... because this is the first time that Mavity has been mentioned outside of Wild Blue Yonder, I kind of thought to myself, oh, okay, yeah, they are doing something with this. I suppose it still remains to be seen somewhat whether this is just like a running joke or gag, or whether it's an actual, it's not a myth, but an actual thing that's going to be picked up on and become a plot point in the show itself. I think I'd certainly want it, and I'm sort of leaning towards it being the latter. But what do we think about Mavity, and I don't know what that might mean, how it might tie into some of the stuff that's going on here?
I feel like it's just going to be a running gag. However, I think it is emphasizing a point, which I think is going to become crucial to the season ahead, which is that there are repercussions to time travel.
Yeah.
You see it in Wild Blue Yonder, not only with Mavity, but with the whole Stalk thing and that allowing the Twingmaker into our universe. And I think you see it again in this story, because when the timeline changes, Mrs. Flood seems to change as a character in that new version of the timeline. And I think that's a repercussion of the timeline being changed. So I think it's alluding to a bigger thing, but I think Mavity itself is going to be a running gag. or not. Who knows?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that is so true, because I thought as I watched the episode, I was like, when the TARDIS dematerializes, there's that whole shot of the comedy moment of when, you know, she drops her shopping bags. Oh my god, what's that? And I'm watching that second time through, I was like, oh, interesting, that moment, because that doesn't quite make sense. Why would she be so shocked? And then you're right, the Doctor comes back. She's now sat in a chair, you know, as if it's an everyday thing to see a police box about the place. And so yeah, oh, that's a good point. That I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, exciting.
And thoughts on Mavity? Maybe we should move straight to Mrs. Flood then. Obviously, the biggest sort of takeaway from this, you know, that mid-credit scene at the end, the winks to the camera, the looks to the camera, the delivery to the camera. Never seen a TARDIS before. What do we think is going on there? And again, how seriously are we taking this? Is it just a running joke or a one-off thing of a nice little nod, literally, to the audience, or something bigger? Who do we think she could be? Any theories from? Well, I say any theories. I did a video about this on the channel, and people are saying, "Oh, it must be flood, pond, song, river song. It must be something there."
Right,
Not entirely
okay.
sure about that one, but anything else that's on the table, let us know what you're thinking about this.
Floods. It could be the water creatures from the Water Mars Bowie Base 1. They come back. I have no idea who she could be. She could be the Rani. But people say that all the time. I have no clue. But Russell said that we do find out. Apparently it's a slow burn.
Slow
Okay.
burn, yeah.
Out who she is.
Did I predict in one of our videos, Richard, that she was a plasmavore?
I was watching this back as I was going to bed one night the other day, and yeah, there's some interesting stuff, and it's only gonna get more interesting, that video, as time goes on. But yeah, we thought she was going to be a plasmavore because of the because she was calling it Mrs. Blood and interviews and
Mrs.
stuff
Blood
as well.
for a time,
Right.
and then there was the whole thing about the allusion to a fourth and seventh Doctor villain, and we were all kind of like, well, Herbivores, great vampire.
Which
it must be a
now, again, watching it back, now I'm thinking, is that something to do with gods, like the gods of Ragnarok? Fendal, maybe, or
Sutek.
I'm thinking probably
Sutek.
something Sutek, yeah, something along those lines, perhaps more so.
Yeah.
There are a few moments in that as well. I was watching the Beatles, the Devil's Chord bit as well. We even knew the title back then. It had been picked up on set. It was the same one, wasn't it? And
that was the only title I think we knew.
The only one, wasn't
Everything
it?
else was TBC.
And interestingly enough as well, there are 3 words that Russell gives from that story. Can anyone remember what any of those words were from the Beatles one?
No.
The 60s
Liverpool?
one. Liverpool, non-diegetic, and legions, which of course now
the legions are coming.
the legions are coming. So that's an interesting one, kind of going back to look at that as well. I'm sure there's going to be loads of stuff like that going forward. Little side tangent there, but yeah, there is a moment in that video, a good bit that we should clip, I think, where I think you say, or one of us says, "Oh, I'm sure there's going to be more to Mrs. Flood than meets the eye." ... You know, So yeah, clearly something weird.
It's our quote for the Radio Times.
It's our quote for the Radio Times. Which reminds me, we still have never been told what the 5-word title for Wild Blue Yonder was. The alternate one, which apparently gives the game away.
Was there an alternate title?
That was another one of those things that Russell mentioned once. Anyway,
Bringing out my Christmas present as well, by the way.
Yeah,
you go ahead, Josh. I'll save this as a cliffhanger.
No, it's I'm bringing up a point that you made, Miles. I think you said my arms are too long is 5 words. So
I think we suggested some stuff at the time. I think Miles came up with some stuff. But yeah.
Imagine that being in the annual episode, special 2. My arms are too long. There was something in here that just reminded me. The bit that's mentioned Anita Dobson's casting and Michelle Greenwood. But what is the significance of the doors?
Yeah.
Do we remember that?
Ooh.
So they posted those 2 photos. Can you show us those photos again, actually, just for ease of...
There we go.
There we go.
Can we
those 2
see
photos?
That? There they are.
Yeah.
The blue door.
That's when they were both cast, and that's what he said at the time. Could be. I mean, the thing about it I don't know whether there's something in this or not. I imagine maybe there is, but okay, first things first, get technical about it. So those photos were from the first block of filming, which is episode 4 and 5. the Christmas special was shot after that, and I believe the first stuff on location, or maybe there's some stuff on location as well in that block in Bristol. I can't remember, but the key thing, those photos of those doors and those doors in those photos don't directly match up, I think, with what we've seen, particularly the Mrs. Flood one. It's a different door. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe it's just like maybe her backyard or something, or something in studio to
It's
as opposed to on
Abdul's. It's
location.
Abdul's door, actually. I think she's moved into
Yeah,
to pester him.
but no, I wouldn't be surprised if there is something there. You can never tell with these kind of Russell lines or like sound bites, can you? Like how important those things will actually be. But that does feel like one that could come to something. Yeah, we know we're going to be seeing her again at least once, probably more times, hopefully. Yeah, who knows? Could it be Mrs. Flood? Flood, rain is an anagram of Rani. It could be. It's been said. It's been suggested.
I will. You can clip this out. I will
Yeah.
put money on the fact that it is not the Rani, because we always say it as a fandom. We're always like,
And
this is the Rani, this is the Rani.
There's some rights issues with the Rani as well, isn't there? Apparently, so
That's what I'd heard. Yeah.
So I don't think Big Finish can use her anymore.
Oh, really?
Interesting,
Okay.
actually. Yeah. You'd
Wow.
think, because otherwise she'd be on every box set cover for the rest of time, wouldn't she? So yeah, interesting.
So do we think the Master is a plausible option here, or do we think it's a new character, old character?
I think it's probably a new character.
Probably a new
a
character.
new character with an
Yeah.
involvement in Ruby's life.
Yeah.
Perhaps Ruby's mum from the future. Perhaps.
Yeah.
I did have a
Yeah.
note where I thought, is it Ruby from the future? But then
It was suggested.
sort of-
Yeah.
she's so Cockney and Ruby is so northern that there's
Yeah.
no real link there. But it could be one of those things. Is she the woman in the cloak who dropped Ruby off as a baby?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that the woman in the cloak who delivers baby Ruby is Ruby from the future. Yeah.
Interesting.
And why did the Doctor not run after her? Is
Actually,
there a
I'm not going to put
significance
money
to
on
the
it
fact?
because no, I don't have money to waste, so I'm not going to put money on it. But I think it is Ruby from the future.
So one thing that my brother said was he said that the woman that opens the door to get Ruby on as a baby on the floor, she doesn't look around to see if anybody's left her. She doesn't she's not surprised there's a baby there. So my brother was like, it could be an inside job. It could be that is a woman, the one that
Oh, okay. Yeah.
was dropped off.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe that sort of thing just happens all the time. On
Yeah,
Ruby.
maybe.
You never know.
Like, another one.
Yeah.
Another baby. Oh, I've already got 6 rubies.
Yeah, another Ruby.
Interesting stuff. I mean, people will probably remember as well from that night shoot they did at that church for I think 3 nights back in February. There were photos that came out not only of Ncuti there, but also Millie.
Yes.
And we didn't see that in the episode. We've been told that we're going to be returning to this site and it's going to, come back in the future again. Another little nugget from our video mails actually as well. I think at one point we speculate about a line from Scott Hancock about 2 directors scouting out a key series location, and I wonder whether it was the church. I think it's definitely going to come back next year at some point, so I think that would fit.
Was it for
Like,
Block
maybe
1
even as
that they were scouting it? Yeah.
I think maybe for the Christmas episode and then the one after that, so the block that includes episode 1 and episode 3, so maybe we're going to see it as soon as the first episode, I don't know, something like that. But that's another tantalising thing there. Yeah.
When we see the Doctor save baby Ruby, delivers them to the church, and then they see the woman walk off, do we then see the Doctor go back into the TARDIS, or does it cut away?
It cuts away. Oh no, actually, I think we do as the crane sort of goes upwards.
I think
the Doctor
Right.
does.
I think we
walk
do,
into the
but
TARDIS.
it has been suggested that perhaps there is a time gap there that we're not aware of.
Yeah,
Perhaps there's
maybe
another scene
something
that's been cut
continues
out.
that we haven't seen.
Because
Yeah.
why doesn't he run after her? That's my thing. It's like there must be a significance to the fact that he doesn't run after her. That we're going to come back to at some point.
And also the bit in the pre-credits doesn't fit in anywhere. Because he leaves the TARDIS and he can already see the woman walking away at that point, but that doesn't happen in the other one because he turns up and she's not walked off by that point.
Interesting.
That makes sense.
Not
So
realised
that's trailer
that.
that we got.
Okay.
On the 23rd, that 60 Years trailer that was narrated by Paul McGann, there's that shot of Ncuti crying, on that location, which we didn't see.
Who was that
But
in the
there's something
Hooniverse
going
ident
on.
as well? Is that the one that we always see
Yeah, yeah,
at
yeah.
the forefront?
Which is
And
a very
also-
similar shot as
Okay.
well to when he's looking at the fridge mind as well.
Yeah,
So-
I thought they'd
Ah.
superimposed
Interesting.
like the church stuff behind him, because I was like, that shot looks more
That
like
is
the
a
shot
very
that's in
similar
it.
shot. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Something's
Right.
going on there.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of tears in his eyes throughout the episode. So
Something as well that I thought was very early on in the episode, before even the club scene where he's watching Ruby perform and he's looking at her quite pensively in the outfit we know he's going to wear later in the season. Is this sort of
Yes.
like
Yeah,
a
I
Series
thought that.
5 Matt
The
Smith
Doctor from the
Big Bang
future.
type thing? Doctor from the future
Yeah.
looking back on her. Who
I would
knows?
love it if there was something like that with the costumes, because at the moment we think it's just, or we've been told that it's just he's wearing all these different costumes and just having fun, like dressing up and stuff. But what if there was, some significance where, okay, all the scenes where he's in this costume take place on the same day or whatever, and it's that kind of thing. I think that would be a really smart twist.
on the costume note, actually, for the final scene, the Doctor kind of he arrives back and he goes, "Oh, I've got to go and save Davina McCall." Goes off, saves her, comes back on the street. He stops himself before he goes in to see Ruby and sort of goes, "Maybe I'm the bad luck." And there's that bit with Mrs. Flood, which looks curiously like she's been green screened in, because she's stood up and she's not sat down. Maybe that was just the way I was looking at it. I don't know whether that was added on or not. But anyway, he has that moment of, oh, maybe I shouldn't. And he goes, I think, do we see him go back into the TARDIS? I can't quite remember. But obviously we cut back to Ruby, who then decides time travel runs down and goes into the TARDIS. At which point the Doctor has a different outfit on underneath his jacket. So are we thinking there's another situation of, like Capaldi in Deep Breath runs off, comes back in costume, where has he been?
Yes.
Who knows?
Or the end of Rose again. The theories there.
Or
where
the end of
Doctor goes
Rose.
off
Yeah, I
and
mean,
has
I think the
adventures
Ninth Doctor has about 10 different adventures in that gap in
Yeah.
Rose. So who knows? Is there any significance to that, or is it just Ncuti was very quick at getting changed?
I honestly
in
thought
that
it was
gap.
more like Capaldi in the pilot, where he's wearing one outfit, they go into the TARDIS and he quickly puts his red velvet back on. He goes, time and relative dimension in
Right.
space.
Yeah.
I think he's just
Ncuti is
showing off.
he's such a clothes fan. He's like, I must be seen in a different outfit because I've been wearing this for too much. I need to change. Yeah, who knows?
Can I
know
just say as well, I
the
really do like the outfit that he wore. It's probably my favorite of the outfits we've seen. The sort of leather look. I prefer it to the reveal.
That's the action figure I want.
mm.
That's the look in my eyes. Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. I mean, that's the look that they've chosen for the old annual. So it's in my eye. It's the definitive look for him at the minute. The default, which is so weird that wasn't the one that they chose to sort of push.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Isn't it?
Again, I
strange.
wonder whether there was, was that deliberate? Maybe it was just literally that was the first one that he was going to be seen out in public in. You can kind of read into these things. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But I think, if there was something to that'd be really nice. And again, linking to that pub scene, once again, we see a particular woman in that pub scene. She's sort of hugging the band, sort of saying, perform Gaudete or whatever. I don't know what he says. And people have said, oh, that is Susan Twist from Wild Blue Yonder, which I think, yes, I think it probably is. And I didn't pick up on that at all when I was watching it through the first time. But seeing that afterwards, my mind was a little bit blown by that and the possibilities of that and what it could mean going forward as well. It's an uncredited part. It's a speaking part, but the actor's not credited, so that's a bit fishy in itself. Now, again, it could just be reusing an actor or an extra or whatever. It could be like Craig Ells in that Dan reveal video where it's Carvanista, but it's not. It could be something like that. Or there could be something else going on here, possibly connected to Mavity, someone threading themselves throughout this Doctor's adventures and stuff and history and time. And it's been suggested as well that perhaps that other mysterious woman who was on set with like the politician dude on the streets and stuff, doing funny
with the
gestures
face
and stuff.
markings.
With the face markings, yeah, it's been suggested that she's perhaps the same character, but I don't think she looks quite as similar to Susan Twist as this character. But anything's possible. I think whatever the case, yeah, with that, it's something that I would really like to see them do, like a living, walking, talking version of Bad Wolf almost. Mm-hmm. But again, at this point in time, it's kind of all on the table. What are people's thoughts on that, and any other bits and pieces that people notice perhaps that might come back in the future?
It is hilarious. I'll just say now that we had all this thing of like, who is this Susan Twist? And then it turned out she was Mrs. Merriweather, and we were like, oh well, there we go. How, you know, she wasn't anything, and she might become like the next big villain of the series, having popped up. It's just like she's gone from like, you know, oh my god, who is she, to oh, she's this, and oh my god. I would love that. Basically, I won't say whether I think that's going to happen or not. I just think, like you, Richard, I would love that to happen because it's so clever. Because I can't think of anything else in terms of Doctor Who history of that happening before.
No,
physically,
it would be like, very, very sneaky, but very very inspired.
Yeah. I honestly, I'm trying to wrap my brains. While Josh and Pete, while you give your opinions, I'm gonna have a think.
I think that she probably is an extra. I don't think there is something to be read into it. I think it's not a credited part because it's just an extra part. But I don't know. It'll be interesting. It's cool either way that we're speculating about this, and I guess we'll see come May whether she appears again, and if not, Susan Twist is just somebody who's unfortunately been caught up in all this.
She's the fandom's new Chris Marshall, isn't she? She's had very little involvement with the show and yet has become the biggest name of the talking point.
Yeah. A great name, though. Susan Twist, come on.
It's literally like a red herring name.
Yeah,
in the making.
A speculative name.
Has the plot been going since her birth? Has Russell been planning this since this Susan Twist was born?
Is she the woman who dropped Ruby off? Is she underneath the cloak? Is it all going to come round? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not.
Who knows?
I do think that woman is a future Ruby, though. I think that's probably my prediction for the season.
I can't Ruby in some future form. Yeah,
I can't.
We'll be able to laugh back on these reviews in years to come.
Sorry.
So we'll be able to laugh back on these reviews in years to come.
Well, that's why we do it, so we can clip it back.
That's the fun of it.
It's a time capsule.
Say, look how silly we were. Yeah.
And I can't remember
how wrong we were.
Whether Ncuti actually goes back into the TARDIS at the end of that scene, but I feel like maybe there's more we haven't seen that was going on there that will be shown later on.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay, briefly, any thoughts on the trailer that was shown finally, or season 1? A prediction maybe from everybody, or something. I don't know if you've got one to hand, or thoughts, feelings.
I think you might know which bit of the trailer I was most excited by.
Just maybe.
There was these 4 blokes with guitars that made me kind of go, well, yeah, that looks all right, I suppose. I'm seeing the Beatles there. Kind of made it feel a bit real, of like, oh my god, they actually are doing a Doctor Who Beatles episode, even though looking through that lineup, it's like, how did you cast people that somehow look nothing like the Beatles? It's like you cast intentionally to be like, let's get the person who looks nothing like Paul McCartney and put him in this role. But who knows? I think it excites me to see how that's going to be done. Episode 2 is like my peak. If it is, maybe it is episode
maybe
2.
It's not actually the Beatles.
Yeah. Maybe it's not actually the Beatles. And also Paul McCartney. I would love it if they sort of weave in the whole Paul McCartney is dead theory that was just sort of rife in the sort of community. I mean, if they manage to work that in, fantastic. There's so much Beatles lore that's like ripe for Doctor Who twists, and you know, all that was because of aliens, or that was because of Jinx Monsoon. You know, who knows? But like it's fascinating, and I can't wait to see how the degree of involvement, even if the Beatles are only in it for like a scene and it's just set dressing, it's just like we're in the 60s and oh my god, there's the Beatles, and then an adventure happens. It's just yeah. Episode 2 is on my top of my excitement list. What about the rest of you?
I'm intrigued by, I think it's episode 3 where the Doctor stands on that landmine, and that's all we seem to know.
Supposedly, yeah.
The Doctor stands on a landmine.
Hmm. Well,
In
that's
the
what it
Did
looks
this happen in the trailer?
Someone's foot, presumably the Doctor's, like the green,
lights up.
green lights round the side of it, and then you see the Doctor kind of look really seriously at the camera, or like,
Yeah.
I've never. That's one of those things that I just wasn't. Maybe the Beatles shot came before that, and I was just like,
You're just recovering from that.
Yeah, I'm
excited
going to
for
go
that
back and watch
episode as well. And I'm excited to
Mm.
see how, presumably, Jinx Monsoon is going to be the villain in that story.
it.
yeah.
But how Jinx Monsoon plays into it and what kind of villain they're like. I was thinking about this the other day, actually. Have you guys ever seen a film called Coraline?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Of course,
Constantly terrifies me.
It is terrifying. But you know the scene with the dad where he's at the piano and
Yes.
he's got, like the buttons in his eyes. I can imagine that being quite creepy, like a possessed band or like do you know what I mean?
Like
That would be
Beetle
quite,
puppets.
yeah, that would be quite freaky to do. Maybe
Maybe they're
let's
actual Beatles. Maybe the monsters in that episode are the Beatles. Maybe the
Here we
Beatles
go.
are Beatles.
you can see it happening. Now that you've said it, I
That's
bet
the
it will
fight that
happen.
happens in Abbey Road. It's just the Beatles
Yeah.
ripping off their skin and they're
Oh my
these
God.
huge bugs.
The Time Beetle is part of the Legion. The Time Beetle from Turn Left Makes a Return is part of the Legion.
Beatles
There you go.
unite.
The Pantheon. Because hold on a second, isn't the Time Beetle part of the Tricksters Brigade?
Yes. Yeah.
There you go.
Oh.
That's my prediction. In episode
Jinx
2,
Monsoon
we'll
is the
see-
trickster.
Oh,
There you
maybe.
go. New
We're getting
incarnation of
serious
trickster. This is what
They're
people
all
come
going to be
here for.
completely wrong, but that's the fun.
My head has just exploded. So all I know is the Beatles are in it, Mel's in it, and I'm just going to embrace the
Mel's in
madness
it.
of the rest of it.
Yeah.
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 Sure.
I'm excited. I think I
Yeah.
watched that trailer and all I get is good vibes of it's that kind of old tingly feeling. Like I remember seeing the Series 5 trailer after End of Time and being like, "This is a brand new era."
Yeah.
Like,
it
oh
was
my
that,
god,
wasn't it? Yeah.
what a we have very little idea of what twists and turns are gonna until there's leaks. But we have very little ideas of where this is all going to take us. And the monsters. I mean, oh my god, the monsters. The sort of bogeyman design.
Bogeyman, yeah.
The slugs. Finally seeing them in action. We've only seen them as sort of static things. It's all coming together. The Regency stuff. I mean, Jonathan Groff pulling a gun and all that sort of stuff. Exciting. And yeah, I'm trying to think of other little tidbits from that trailer.
They're quite
We didn't really
like,
see much of Mel, did we?
They're like
We heard
tractators,
it
aren't they, a little
name.
bit?
They are actually, yes. Yeah, they
Yeah.
are a bit tractatory, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
So who knows?
And was
Maybe.
it Rose in the trailer as well?
She was.
Very briefly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For a
Yeah,
second, I
sort
thought
of-
you meant Billy Piper. I was like, I missed that bit.
You're too focused on the landmine.
Oh my god! On the subject of like beetles or beetle-like creatures, when I first saw that shot in succession, I think I thought it was like someone being attacked in unit by some like black beetle-like creature or something. Like that's. And I literally thought like she was like screaming
She's
or
like,
something. But no, it's her like throwing herself, isn't it, into Ncuti's arms, and like the kind of look of joy on her face is actually what's going on there. Yeah, nice to have that kind of just casually dropped in there as well. I guess we just about covered all of it from the trailer, really. So
I'm a little bit
yeah,
surprised
there we
that
go.
it's going to be on at May, though. I would have
May.
thought it would have been earlier, sort of March, April time.
March. Yeah, I would have pinned it down for March as well.
It feels like it's kind of killing the momentum because I'd imagine that I think a lot of people did actually watch this Christmas special. A lot of people actually messaged me on Christmas Day saying, "Hey, I watched Doctor Who's Day. It was really good." One of my friends even said, "I've gone back and watched The Star Beast and the rest of the special because I really enjoyed it." I feel like March would be the perfect time for people to go, "Oh, I watched that at Christmas. I enjoyed that. I'll watch the series." I feel like people would have kind of forgotten it by the time we get to May. So I'm a little bit surprised that it's going to be that late. But
I think in Russell we trust. I think that the way that the marketing for the anniversary is kind of been so continuous.
Well, the other thing is,
I have hope.
If you think about it, when we had Russell seasons back in the day, it would start in late March, early April, and go up to July. And it means that because this season is shorter, it'll still end at the same time. So we're just starting later, but still finishing up at the same time.
I suppose so. Yeah,
That's very true.
Yeah, get another summer series. I mean, that's quite exciting, to be honest. Yeah.
I think on that
having
note,
Doctor Who when it's still
the
light.
only thing that I hope we on that note, I think the only thing I hope we don't get is literally like it going into like the end of June, start of July, where literally you've got like the sun like still coming through the windows at like 6 o'clock or whatever, and you're trying to see the computer or television screen or whatever. It's like no, but it will be nostalgic. It will be nostalgic.
There'll be one episode that'll be out when I'm at Devil's End, I think, next year. So that'll be quite nice, being able to watch it at Devil's End. And
there'll be one episode which goes out when I'm seeing Frank Skinner live. So I'll be seeing, what was his character in Mummy on Orient Express?
Perkins.
Perkins.
Yeah.
So I'll be seeing Perkins on the night that one episode
there we go.
is going out. So. Yeah, the mind of a Doctor Who fan.
On that note, thank you all for joining me for this review, and not only this one, but all the other ones we've done of the 60th specials as well. It's been great to review all the episodes this year with you guys, and I hope everyone at home has enjoyed it as well. I'm sure we will be back in some form or another come May or before that if something mad and bonkers happens as well.
Might also be worth just saying very briefly about the Richard Franklin thing.
I just remembered that. Yeah. Take it away, Pete.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you put me under pressure now. Richard Franklin died. It's very sad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, Shy P.
All right, Shy P. Yeah.
Love him.
And I thought it was, I don't know if you guys ever met him, but I met him. I thought he was a very nice man.
No, I didn't.
Good.
And I interviewed him. And he was very kind to me.
Well, we raised the glass on Christmas Day, and we'll give him another salute. So here's to you, Mike Yates.
Here's to Mike Yates.
Here's to Mike Yates.
Here's to Mike Yates.
There we go.
There we go.
Merry Christmas, Mike.
Merry
Yates.
Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone at home as well. Happy New Year. Comment your thoughts below, and we will see you all again at some point in the future. But until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.
I thought you were going to end with a song then, but no.
I genuinely thought you were going to burst out into song. Goodbye, Duggan.